The important thing about ska was the wild honking horn arrangement and the insistent beat, the dance they did too. It was the ska, note the hands and hip movements. For some reason that cannot be explained, during the middle of the 60s, the music began to be slowed down. This was the era known as rocksteady, and that's the title of this song by Alton Ellis, one of the best-known artists of the period, along with Ken Booth, Roy Shirley, the Heptones, and so on. With the slower music, the accent of the dance became a coordination of shoulder and leg movements. In the music, the horns had become less popular and the rhythms were starting to become from the bass guitar.
Because the beat was slower and more difficult to dance to, white kids didn't go for rocksteady the same way as they have for ska. Reggae went back to being a minority music.
In '68, the Maytals came up with the first recorded song that used the word reggae. It was called Do the Reggae. The beat was much faster. Notice the importance of the driving rhythm guitar in keeping it going. The dance is now totally self-expressive, involving the whole body. This is the beginning of reggae as we know it today.
Some working-class kids again turned briefly to reggae in the late 60s and early 70s when the skinheads found it was really good to dance to.
Although reggae was now big business, its success in the charts was confined to freak hits like the Israelites, and it was still relegated to the bottom ranks of the radio playlists. The next aspect of the music which began to be written about and influence its development was Rastafarianism. The Rastafarian movement had its origin with Jamaican national hero Marcus Garvey, who preached a return to Africa and urged Jamaicans to look to Africa where a black king would be crowned. His prophecy was realized in 1931 with the crowning of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia, who was born Rastafari. The Rasta movement grew as Garvey's followers spread his teachings of righteous action and shed possessions and turned for their faith to Jah Rastafari or Haile Selassie, who they believed to be divine for enlightenment and guidance. Today, the Rasta movement is the single most influential phenomenon in Jamaican society. This music is Bob Marley and the Wailers' arrangement of the traditional Rastaman chant. Marley is one of the many Jamaican singers who use their music to preach the Rasta religion. The lyrical content is always spiritual, drawing heavily on the Bible, while the hard rhythms are always insistent and contagious.
From 1968 onwards, white artists like the Stones, Paul Simon and Elton John became interested in the reggae sound. They went to Jamaica to make records, used black musicians and were heavily influenced by it. And in turn, reggae stars began to come to England to play to their fans here. Ken Booth came over in 1967, Toots and the Maytals in 1970, and Bob Marley toured first in 1971.
Now to dub. This is a name given to a music that is really the creation of the recording engineers in Jamaica, two of the most important being King Tubby's and Errol T, who makes this I'm Alright by the 2nd Street Dreads. In dub, if you have a vocal track on the A side of a record, the B side is often a radically changed version of the same song. Instead of the melody, you hear mainly the rhythm, and the engineers use electronics to distort the singers, create the illusion, and highlight the bass and drums. The last dance you see is the skank, which has been the most popular dance in the discos since 1972 and is still going strong.
Check me, check yourself, 'cause I'm no fool.
Well, thank you very much, Steve, and thank you, Fat Man, for the music. With me now I have Carl Gayle, who writes for black music and is one of the most respected writers on the subject, and Junior Lincoln, who grew up in the back streets of Kingston and now runs one of England's largest record companies specialising in reggae. First of all, Carl, do you think 1976 is going to be the year that reggae finally makes the charts in England?
Well, I'd like to say a big yes without holding back, but unfortunately, I don't think the music media or the media in general have been as interested or as involved in the black community as it should be, but I think it's improving.
Do you think reggae is as an important musical form as blues and jazz?
I think it is. I mean, I think it will be as influential on musicians in years to come as any other type of music.
Yeah, because one of the critics of reggae say, oh, it's boring, repetitive, it's just got a very insistent
That's just because
beat.
they can't understand it.
Junior, do you agree with Carl? Do you think 76 is going to be the year reggae really makes it in England?
Yes, we've been saying this for a long time, but I really think that 76 will be a good year for the music.
He says the media don't really promote reggae enough, but do you think, in fact, it's the record companies who should be promoting reggae very heavily to make it catch on?
Well, it worked both ways. I mean, a few years ago, we had a situation where it was only small companies that were handling reggae music, and obviously they didn't have the resources to promote it the way it should be. But now, these companies, bigger companies, are getting very interested in the music, and as a result of that, I think it will get better promotion.
Yeah, I agree with him, but I think one thing is that we should never forget the smaller companies in Jamaican music in this country. Every time there's a discussion about reggae music, we tend to talk about certain artists, you know. But I'd just like to point out that there are a lot more artists as good as Toots and the Maytals or Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Junior, why do you think it is that, in spite of publicity given to people like Bob Marley, England hasn't produced a reggae star, you know, from here, from amongst the Jamaicans living in this country?
Well, the environment for the music is very important, and that environment is in Jamaica. You find that when a group come here for a tour, if they stay too long, they inclined to lose the feel of the music, because reggae sound completely different in Jamaica. As a matter of fact, there's one group that I think has sort of created a bit of history. That's the Cimarrons, who's just been to Jamaica and did an extremely good tour and a very good concert. And I think Jamaica was shocked to see that a group from England could have been back to Jamaica and did such a good tour.
Yeah, that proves that there are good musicians here, lots of them, you know, but because of the success of acts from Jamaica, the media has gotten used to listening to music directly from Jamaica. But I think the companies and the media should get more involved and interested in the musicians here.
Yeah, so you think the media should promote it more heavily. Now, Steve, do you think that Radio 1 should have a reggae show? At the moment, your show on Radio London and a show on Capital are the only two.
Quite, that's right. I hope Radio 1 will pick it up in 76. And I hope I'll be presenting it.
Well, I hope so too. Finally, we've asked Toots, the Toots and the Maytals, who'll be touring England next month, to pick out his favourite all-time reggae greats. Here they are then, Toots' top 5, including, I see, 2 of his own records. Bit biased, that. Stir It Up by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Number 2, Revolution by Toots and the Maytals. Number 3, Toots and the Maytals again with Walk With Love. Number 4, Country Boy by the Heptones. And number 5, Marcus Garvey by Burning Spear. I'll be back next week. See you then.